plenty. Okay. I'm just saying, I'm just surprised it's not a full charge.
He's here. He's here. He just texted. He's here. He texted.
He's also vice principal of my son.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled January 11, 2024 organizational meeting of the Bedford County School Board to order. Mrs. Johnson, would you kindly call the roll?
Mr. Daniels?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Holbrook?
Here.
Dr. Hupa? Here. Mr. Knight?
Here.
Mr. Nelms?
Here.
Mrs. Purvis?
Here.
Mr. Superintendent, there's a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Dr. Bergen, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written with the exception of moving 8 superintendent's report and 9 matters from the board to below number 12, approval of consent agenda, and removing number 11, additional board member comments.
I second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Is there any discussion?
I don't know if I need to make this with the motion, but I would like that agenda to be set going forward. If the board approves, that we would move those 2 to the bottom.
Okay. So moving items number 8 and 9 to below number 12, approval of the consent agenda, and removing item number 11, additional board member comments.
Correct.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, at this time I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. I'd now like to open the floor up for nominations for chairman of the school board. And by way of reminder, nominations do not require a second.
Mr. Superintendent, I move that we nominate Marcus Hill for chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Any further nominations? Hearing none, I will now close the floor on nominations and call for a vote. All in favor of Mr. Hill serving as chair of the school board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, sir. All right. I want to say thank you to this board for that nomination and approval. I promise to lead this team to the best of my ability so that we are successful in everything that we plan to do and going forward. So again, thank you, and I look forward to working and reaching out to each and every one of you. Next item on the agenda is the election of vice chairman for 2024. So with that being said, are there any nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Christopher Daniels.
Okay, Mr. Daniels. Is there any other nominations? Okay, with no other nominations, I close that out. So we have a motion. Do I have to do a motion on that?
It's a nomination. It does not require a second.
Okay,
So you're good to call for a vote now.
Okay, all right, wanted to clarify. All right, so if we will, let's take a vote for election of vice chairman for 2024 for Mr. Chris Daniels. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Daniels.
Thank you.
Everyone will please stand for the presentation of colors.
Order, arms. Left, face. Freeze it, arms.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Outward, face. Pose. Pose, colors. Freeze it, arms. Order, arms. Reform.
Next, we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to staff reports, we'll go to 2.01, school presentations of Big Island Elementary and Liberty High School. Dr. Bergen?
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Has been our tradition the last several months. We have invited Mrs. Kate McNeely, principal of Big Island Elementary School, and behind her, Mr. Justin Tucker, principal of Liberty High School. They'll be sharing with the board information about their school's accomplishments and the goals that are contained within their school's continuous improvement plans. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. McNeely.
Hello. My name is Kate McNeely. Good evening, members of the board. I'm the principal of Big Island Elementary School. At Big Island Elementary School, our vision is to develop lifelong learners who will become successful community members who are able to address the issues of a constantly changing society. Our mission, in partnership with our families and community, is to educate our students in a way that encourages independence, responsibility, and good citizenship, while imparting the academic skills necessary to meet required standards in a safe and supporting environment. Our vision and mission align directly with the BCPS vision, Building Citizens, Promoting Success. This evening, I will share an overview of our Big Island celebrations, continuous school improvement goals, and school-wide initiatives for improvement. In 2021, Big Island Elementary was recognized as an ESEA Distinguished School. Distinguished schools are selected by the State Education Agency and are recognized under 3 categories. Big Island was selected for Category 1, schools exhibiting exceptional student performance and academic growth. This is my first year at Big Island Elementary School, but in the first semester, I have been welcomed and feel included by this amazing community of students, educators, support staff, families, and community members. I have made it a goal to observe, support, and encourage all the good things that are already happening at Big Island, while also adjusting when necessary. First off, Big Island is fully accredited. While we recognize that we have room for improvement, especially in the area of chronic absenteeism, we are happy to have this distinction. We have an amazing PTA at Big Island. They have done an incredible amount for our school and students this first semester. They raised a lot of money to purchase 3 new pieces of equipment for our playground, and they are quite the hit with the students. They have hosted and participated in school events, including a softball tournament, the fall festival, literacy night, the winter music performance, and the book fair. They have done landscaping at the car rider circle and the entrance to the school that make our physical structure more clean and inviting. Our school counselor and staff have coordinated initiatives that promote student well-being and citizenship skills throughout the school semester. We have continued the program of Bulldog Pride. Students are encouraged to persevere, be respectful, be in control, do the right thing, and have empathy. Staff members recognize students for showing these qualities, and students are recognized on the announcements weekly. The students this year have also been so excited and encouraged by this program that they've created a Bulldog Brag program where they submit shout-outs to staff members for their actions as well. In September, we had Resilience Week, where students learned how to practice resiliency and create a bulletin board of encouragements to others in our cafeteria. In October, we had Unity Day, where we had a guest speaker come to encourage students to do what is right and learn about anti-bullying. In December, we had the 12 Days of Kindness, where students were encouraged to do kind things for one another. All of these initiatives have helped further our mission to educate our students in a way that encourages independence, responsibility, and good citizenship. I would like to extend a sincere thank you to all the firefighters, first responders, parents, teachers, and community members for their dedication and bravery during the Matts Creek wildfire. I have to admit, I did not have wildfire on my principal bingo card this year. However, our teachers kept teaching until the time that we loaded students onto buses to evacuate. Parents and families made sure that every single student was safe, and I am extremely grateful. Our continuous school improvement plan is developed each year with our leadership team and focuses on different aspects of our school. This year, based on our data, we chose to focus on PALS reading scores, math SOL scores, school climate, and attendance. As we review historical and current academic data, it is important to understand that the results for the 1920 school year are not available due to the closure of schools and the cancellation of state assessments. As you can tell from this chart, Big Island Elementary's reading scores are strong. Last year, Big Island had an 84% pass rate for reading in grades 3 through 5. Although this shows the scores for reading for grades 3 through 5, of course we know that learning to read starts much earlier. We decided to base our literacy goal on PAL score improvement for grades K through 3. PAL stands for Phonological Awareness Literacy Screening. 21 out of 92 students, 22.8%, tested this fall on the PALS assessment were identified for missing their summed score. When we reviewed this as a team, we wanted to make a goal to help these students improve their reading skills. Therefore, our first goal is that by the spring 2024 PALS assessment, the number of students that do not make their summed scores on the spring 2024 PALS assessment will be reduced to 10 students or less. This will bring our percentage from 22.8 to 10.8. We have seen progress toward this goal so far this school year. We have seen improvement in alphabet recognition, letter sounds, and sight word recognition. Our reading specialists and K-3 teachers work with students in small groups based on their needs to provide systematic, explicit literacy instruction they need to grow into lifelong successful readers. We have used programs such as UFly, Really Great Reading, Walpole McKenna, and Hegarty, as well as the Benchmark Advance that supports the science of reading. Here are some pictures of our literacy night this fall, where we had bingo games, the book fair, and a campfire themed s'mores and storytelling. It was well attended even though it rained, showing the community support and commitment of our families. Here are the math scores for Big Island, Bedford County, and the state over the past 4 tested years. As you can see, Big Island has strong scores in math as well. Big Island's SOL math score for grades 3 through 5 is 84% for the 22-23 school year. However, when we looked at each grade scores, we found that they are varied, with 3rd at 80%, 4th at 79%, and 5th at 96%. By utilizing vertical planning and PLC time, our math teachers in the upper grades can help prepare students as they move to the next grade. Thus, our goal for math is to have an 86% pass rate on the 2024 spring SOL math assessments for grades 3 through 5. We are using vertical planning, MathFX Pro, and small group instruction to support students, and we have seen improvement with math scores this semester. In an effort to recognize students, create awareness, and teach social emotional skills, we have encouraged the whole school. We have implemented the Bulldog Pride program. Last year, 22-23, there were 223 nominations submitted. There were 70 nominations for perseverance, 30 nominations for respect, 26 nominations for being in control, 52 nominations for doing the right thing, and 45 nominations for empathy. The areas of respect and being in control were the least nominated. We wanted to both increase and vary the nomination pool. Therefore, our goal is that by the end of the 23-24 school year, there will be a 14% increase in nominations for a total of 250. These nominations will also come from all 6 grade levels and include students who have never been nominated. The areas of respect and being in control will increase by 10% each. So far, you can see that we are making progress towards this goal. Halfway through the school year, we have already had 228 nominations. So far, there are 54 nominations for perseverance, 34 for respect, 27 for being in control, 69 for doing the right thing, and 44 for empathy. And here are some pictures of our proud Bulldogs. Attendance is an area we are monitoring closely. It was the only indicator that we got lower than a level 1 with a level 2 indication on our state accreditation. Last year, our rate was 23.3%, and the range for the state should be under 15%. By the end of the 23-24 school year, there will be an 8% decrease in absenteeism by implementing both positive rewards for attendance and addressing truancy. To help decrease absenteeism, we have created a flowchart for families deciding if their student should stay home, as well as an ice cream incentive for the homeroom with the best attendance per month. And as you can see, the ice cream is a hit. So as I wrap up this presentation, you can see our plans are designed to support the growth of all students. As you make plans for the second semester of the school year, we invite you to Big Island so that you can experience what our school has to offer. Thank you for your time and support.
Any questions?
Let me comment.
Sure.
I've been to your school, and it is in my school district, and I have been very blessed and encouraged by everything I saw there. So you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
And thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Ms. McGinley, first off, a big thank you to the PTA. I mean, what they've done there is just incredible. Do you know how much they raised for the playgrounds?
I think it was around 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah, we're
Wow.
small but mighty.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that's a testament to what happens when parents and teachers and everyone's involved, the whole community's involved, and it doesn't matter the size, you can punch above your weight class, as they say. But that's just amazing. And that's a testament to, what's going on over there. Your goal 1, PALS for PALS, is like a 50% improvement, is what you're shooting for. I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but we love lofty goals. And I think that's achievable, and I think you aim for the moon, and if not, you land them on the stars. So I think that's great. So I encourage more of that. So this is where we think we're going to get. So I really think that's great. This is your first year at the school, but obviously before you knew about the school, you met with the team, understanding what's going on, what makes everybody tick over there. What do you equate the success of Big Island to? Because they're overachieving. So what do you equate the success to?
I mean, if I could bottle it up, I'd be a millionaire. But I don't know. They all are. They have a really strong belief in each other's abilities, and I mean that's proven by research that if you know that the teacher next door to you is doing the best that she can, and she's going, we're all women, so he or she can do the best, then the kids understand that and they see that, the parents see that, they all have that faith in each other that we're going to reach our goal.
Everyone's pulling in the right direction.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier to pull a string along than try to push it. It
Exactly.
resists. So that's great. So just keep it up, and thank you so much. And hopefully there's a lot of best practices that everybody can learn from Big Island. And hopefully, once we know what those are, let's try to bottle that up and let's pull it all across the county.
And we have had other teachers come to observe, some of my teachers, and I've talked with them about maybe videotaping. They don't love that idea, but I think that they would.
Again, everyone's pulling in the right direction. You seem to have good parent and guardian support as well. I
Absolutely.
think that when everyone's working like that, it's always hard, but it becomes a little bit easier. So thank you for all the hard work.
One thing I've observed when I was there is I talked to the teachers, see how they're doing, how they like things, and they said they feel like a family there, and they love being there. And I think that's the kind of atmosphere we need to have in our schools.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I had a question, probably reflects my ignorance, but in your Bulldog Pride program, what does a nomination look like? I mean, how does that happen when you say you have a certain number of nominations? Where are those coming from, and how's that arranged?
Yes, it's a Google form that our counselors set up, and then our ITC made it into those certificates that you saw them holding up. And so we announce them over the loudspeaker, and the kids cheer for each other, and they're really excited, and they get like a pencil and, a small toy that is very small, but they absolutely love it, and they just, prance on back to class. So it's a simple Google form. You write which part of the PRIDE you're nominating them for, and then a little sentence about what they did.
So do the teachers nominate or the students?
Teachers, staff members, so then the students said, we want to nominate you guys, and so they've created their own Bulldog Brag where they also nominate, and those are also wonderful, and we are getting a screen where we can put those up to have them scroll.
So the students can nominate teachers or staff, but not each other?
No, not yet, but maybe that's something I can bring back to my team to suggest.
Well, yeah, think about that. Because
Yeah.
there could be some problems with that, too.
Right,
The-
that's-
I just wanted to
We have
know.
really sweet kids, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So from an absenteeism, what are you seeing are your number 2 and 3, top 2 and 3 drivers of why are they not coming?
I don't know. A lot of my conversations with parents will say, they just weren't feeling good, so we kept them home. So I've encouraged them, through that flow chart, kind of go through. And then also sometimes if they have an appointment, they'll stay out for the whole day
Right.
instead of just part of the day. So we've tried to encourage them to come. We can give them work to take home or come after their appointment. We do have some vacations that parents ask, to take their child out. But yeah, I think it's kind of a timidness post-COVID that, again, we're seeing all over the country.
Outside of instruction time, what are the activities that you guys are offering your students outside of instruction? So what's the free time and other curriculum look like outside of in their daily classroom?
Well, we don't have sports necessarily. We have an SCA that is the entire 5th grade. And we have, the counselor has like lunch bunch groups based on interests or needs or those kinds of things. The rec basketball league and rec baseball use our facilities, and we support them. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned a new playground or some new playground equipment.
Oh, yeah, we have recess every day. Yes, for sure.
All right, good.
And how many recesses do you have? Just one a day?
One a day, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Is there any time where that recess is limited to less than 30 minutes, taken away? I've seen sometimes where removing recess is a type of punishment for the students. I'm curious if you're trying to avoid that at all cost, and I just feel like recess is probably one of the most important parts of the day, so.
We completely agree. No, we really try. That is like the last ditch effort. And usually it's in, the parent says, yes, I agree. Like they need to stay with somebody and get some work done. It's never a behavior thing, but I could probably count on my hands the times that it's happened this year. And often it's not even the whole recess.
And is it for the individual that is in trouble versus the whole class, or?
Oh, yeah. No, it's just Tommy needs to finish
Okay.
his work.
And what about PE? How many times a week are the students in PE, and for how long?
Yeah, we have a PE teacher that we share with Boonesboro. So she comes on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then the art teacher comes on Thursdays and Fridays, and they alternate quarters. And so one quarter they'll have 2 days of PE, and the next quarter they'll have 2 days of art. And then our music is twice a week for everybody.
Okay.
It's a very complicated schedule.
Yeah, I
but it
understand.
does make sense.
Well, I just, I've asked a lot of kids, including my own, what's your favorite class at school? And, they love lunch and they love PE and recess,
Sure.
right? And, that doesn't mean we can do that all day long, but when you were talking about absenteeism and, what drives a kid to go, I've found that a lot of times, if it's the day they have PE, they're probably not going to skip that day of school, right? And so I just think that not only does that help them, get some of that jittery type thing out, but it also is a motivator to go to school. They love to get out and play. So I'd like to see, more schools really focusing on making sure we have recess every day and PE as much as possible.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, board members. I'm Justin Tucker, the principal at Liberty High School, and I'm excited to share with you all the great things happening at LHS. The two statements that you see here frame the work that we do. The mission of LHS is to focus on relationships, academics, community, and wellness every day. And our vision is to promote significant relationships and provide a rigorous and relevant curriculum that meets the needs of our students and community. We have a lot to celebrate in Minuteman Country. For the third year in a row, we are thrilled to remain fully accredited while continuing to make progress in several areas that we're focusing on. This year, we retained over 90% of our teachers, and we have been very fortunate to hire several well-qualified educators in the past few years. Because of our great staff and their willingness and expertise, we have been fortunate to expand our AP, dual enrollment, and CTE offerings. Through the work of our intervention design and mental health specialists, we continue to celebrate the opportunity and reflection space, which we call OARS. This alternative environment has allowed many students to improve their performance at LHS. One of the things we are most proud of in looking back on this program is the number of students who were at risk who wound up graduating on time after they participated in this program. One of the things that I'm most excited about is, as a campus-style school like Stanton River, we have benefited from several recent safety and security upgrades, thanks to support from the division safety team, the school board, and the sheriff's office. And finally, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, I truly believe that our school is home to quite a handful of incredible educators. The past 5 years alone, we have had several teachers go on to be named as finalists or winner for Bedford County Teacher of the Year, with one going on to be Regional Teacher of the Year. So again, I think it is our top-notch staff who help make our school such a great place to learn and grow. A huge congratulations to our girls cross-country team who won the state championship a few months back for the first time in school history. In addition, another state champion, Marissa Parikh from our forensics team, has earned the state champion title for 2 years in a row, and we are hoping that this upcoming season will bring a third. Yovaso, which is a group focused on safe driving for teens, has won State Club of the Year for 2 consecutive years. In the performing arts, the VHSL 1 Act was regional runner-up, and the Marching Minutemen earned class grand champions for the first time in over a decade. One of the things that I'm most excited to talk about is our thriving parent organizations. When I first came to Liberty, we had a small handful of dedicated parents. And now our PTSA, our athletic boosters, and our Minutemen clubs, they all have full boards and they are growing steadily. These are groups of selfless, dedicated, nonstop individuals who are pouring into our school, and it is paying off quickly, from things like campus beautification, equipment upgrades, special gestures for students and staff. You can walk around and see just how much these folks are doing to help improve our school. So we have a lot to celebrate, but we also recognize we have a lot of hard work cut out for us and a lot of goals to work towards. After a lot of reflection in the past few years, we began shifting the way we do our leadership structure at Liberty High School, recognizing that we've got to get everybody on the same ship, sailing in the same direction if we're going to make long-term, lasting growth over time, has really become our biggest priority. So to that end, rather than having a single leadership team, which is the norm, we now have 5 separate leadership teams, each one specifically focused on one of the 5 goals that you see here. This approach has helped in a lot of ways. It has helped us create an environment where almost everyone is actively involved in helping move our school forward, and it's allowing each team to really focus and utilize their resources effectively. So with that, I'm excited to tell you about the 5 goals we're working on. Goal 1 really focuses on improving SOL achievement across 3 different areas. As you can see here, our pass rate in science has decreased from 79 to 57% over the past 3 years. So this year, our goal is to achieve an overall science pass rate of at least 70%, with hopes of moving beyond that in the future. Still part of Goal 1, English has historically been a great strength for us. Last year, for example, we finished with an overall pass rate of 85%, which is 10 points above the state's expectation. But that same data is telling us that some of our subgroups are not achieving at this same standard. For example, as you can see here, although we did improve the achievement of students with disabilities from 21 to 45% in 1 year, that's still quite a ways away from the 70% that we want to reach. So our goal is to keep the overall pass rate for English above 80%, while also aiming to increase the achievement for the different groups that you see here. Math is very similar. Our overall achievement in math has made significant improvement over time, but it is our subgroups where we really have a lot of work still to do. So our goal is just that, to keep the overall pass rate above 80%, while honing in and aiming to improve each subgroup there to at least 70% or greater. So putting Goal 1 together to support SOL achievement in these areas, it really all begins with the way we build our schedule. We try to really target scheduling on these courses, aiming to balance student needs with class sizes and supports. And then once the year gets going, we work hard to monitor our instructional practices through classroom visits, where we're really focusing on alignment. We have got to make sure that we're teaching what the standards say at the levels they say them. And so by doing this with our instructional leadership team, we're also really working to involve our teacher leaders in this process more than ever, not just the administrators on campus. And finally, recognizing that transportation can be a barrier to receiving additional supports, we have been extremely fortunate to hire 3 part-time remediation tutors who are working with our teachers to offer additional push-in remediation during the school day. Goal 2, as you can see here, addresses graduation. Historically, we have always met or exceeded expectations for both the on-time graduation and dropout rates at LHS, although our dropout rate did increase slightly this past year. According to the VDOE, high schools must maintain an on-time graduation rate of at least 88% and a dropout rate of 6% or less. So moving forward, we're aiming to keep an on-time graduation rate of at least 90% or higher, and to get that dropout rate back to 5% or less, and then we want to keep growing that year after year. As crazy as it sounds, we think that the work of getting kids to graduate on time really begins much, much earlier than that. And so we want that to start with a smooth transition to high school. And so during the 2nd semester of their 8th grade year, we began working with rising 9th graders and their families. Last year, I think one of the neatest things we did at our school was launch something called Find Your Grind Day, where we set aside a day for teachers to meet with every single student they teach to talk about their long-term goals and plans, and then to discuss course options for the next year that align with those goals and plans. We work to do this with our 8th graders, and then we invite them to kind of a specialized open house in February so they can start learning our school, our courses, our programs before they're even deciding what they want to take in the 9th grade. Once students get into high school, it's our graduation support team that then begins closely monitoring and supporting them and begins putting interventions in place to make sure that as seniors they graduate on time. Knowing that this is an issue for us, we've put a few new things in place this year, one of them being a new layer of communication. We're using an automated text message system really to target our seniors directly. Sometimes they need that reminder to conquer senioritis and actually come to school senior year. And we're also offering some new activities and events for seniors, trying to build some traditions and some excitement so they actually want to come to school and be a part of things. Moving to attendance, like you've heard, like many schools, chronic absenteeism was not really a concern for us prior to the pandemic, but unfortunately since then it has been. Students who miss more than 10% of the school year are classified as chronically absent, and the goal for all schools is to keep the number of students who reach that threshold to less than 15%. As you can see here, 2 years ago, our rate reached 28%, and we did come down this past year. We were excited to see a drop to 21%, which is positive, but we've still got a long ways to go. So this year, our goal is to bring that under 15%, and next year we want to get under 13 and keep going until we get back to where we know we can be, because we saw it several years ago. As you've heard, I'll be very honest, this can be a complicated topic to address, and it really begins with making sure that our students, our families, all stakeholders really understand the importance of being at school all day, every single day. And we're working hard to communicate that message. For the first month of this school year, the weekly message that I send solely focused on attendance. That's what we talked about every week. And we are continuing to push this message to both our students and our families throughout the year. Finally, we're watching our daily attendance data closer than we ever have, and we are intervening when a student only has a very small number of absences to get them back on track. Our attendance team will quite literally make hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and participate in hundreds of meetings this year just to make sure that kids are coming to school when they're supposed to. Our fourth goal addresses the College Career and Civic Readiness Index, which is the newest component of the school accreditation for high schools. This index calculates the number of students who are involved in an AP, dual enrollment, or CTE program, or a work-based learning opportunity. In just 2 years, we've improved our rate from 54% to 73%. We're aiming to exceed at least 85% this year and then 87% next year. Because this is a newer measure, I'll be honest, that information from the state was rather sparse at first. And so when we formed a leadership team focused on this, one of the first things we realized is we were actually doing several things very, very well. We just weren't coding them properly in the state's point of view. And so we've learned a lot about that, corrected that, and we're excited to keep moving these opportunities forward for our students. Over time, we have added several new CTE courses just in the past 3 years, like construction technology, fisheries and wildlife management, and multimedia web design. This coming year, we're excited to offer entertainment design as well as ecology and forestry management. And as you can see, this is something we're very proud of. We're very thrilled to be a school with a lot of CTE programs. Our FFA is probably one of the easiest examples. They are consistently taking top honors at the state level and beyond, going on to the national competition each year. We've also added AP and dual enrollment courses in multiple departments. And for the first time, we've been really excited this year that we now have students going to the governor's school in both Lynchburg and Roanoke. That's opened up a door so students living towards the western side of our zone can access the Roanoke program as well. Our community partners keep growing also. We've already had a strong career internship program in place, and this year we're really focusing on building our community-based instruction, which is an initiative that fosters job placements for students with disabilities. Finally, we've been working with the Office of Economic Development to allow our students to receive firsthand exposure to job opportunities in this area through the Bedford One trips. Together, like I said, our goal is to really understand our students' goals and plans and then work as a school to expand our courses and our programs to help them meet those goals. Although the first 4 goals were all about accreditation and things the state already measures, we believe that connecting with our students and our community is really the foundation of all the work that we do. And so the final goal that our teams have established is to continually improve the climate and culture of Liberty High School, making it a place where students and staff actually want to be. And so to do this, we have a few measures we're watching. We'll aim to have fewer than 625 disciplinary referrals this year. We will expect that at least 75% of our students go all year without a referral. We will work to process over 500 positive referrals, recognizing students and staff who consistently exceed expectations. And then finally, we will work with our intervention design specialists to make sure that we're implementing plans for every student who's frequently struggling with inappropriate behaviors. Last year, when we formed our culture and climate leadership team, the first thing they really wanted to do was to hear from our students and parents. And so we went through a series of focus groups, surveys, different ways to get feedback. And now based on that feedback, we're really trying to refine and grow our practices in this area. One of those things I mentioned was positive referrals, recognizing we have a lot of folks doing really good things every day and setting aside effort to recognize those folks. In addition, one of the things we consistently heard was that cell phones were consistently viewed as one of the biggest distractions in our learning environment. And so we put a team together that did a significant amount of research, and this year we've implemented what I think's turned out to be a really strong cell phone plan. And I just personally want to say thank you when the board came behind and passed a policy that supported that. It made that work even stronger, and we greatly appreciated that. Finally, kind of in closing this section out, climate culture is a human invention, and I really have to praise and thank our students, our student leaders, and our staff for all that they put in to making the climate culture of Liberty a great thing. They are volunteering countless efforts and time every day of the week, including the weekends. We believe that all the other things I've talked about, academic achievement, school-wide improvement, all of that is based on a strong climate culture, and we want to keep growing in that area. So with that, here's some pictures to show the great things that we've been doing, and I just want to thank you. It's exciting to get to talk about the great things we're doing and the work that we know that we need to keep doing. So thank you for your time this evening, and at this time I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I got one. What are some of the safety and security improvements that are taking place as we speak?
Well, I'm excited that we've had a lot of them, and some of them I can certainly share here. A lot of them have been kind of infrastructure upgrades, helping us improve communication, just basic systems that help us operate the school, help us communicate in the event of an emergency to make sure everyone has clear communication. We've been able to harden our entrances with some automated locking systems. Those are probably the biggest, most helpful ones that we've experienced just this past year.
Okay, I got one other question. You talked about CTE programs. I remember at one particular time at the tech center, they offered an engineering program, and I was told that was moved to the base school. Is that still offered?
We do. We have
Okay.
several courses in that area that have been growing.
Okay. That's it.
I've been to the school, and I was, as a teacher, a public school teacher, I'm very aware of safety. And when there's a lockdown, I've noticed that there were no blinds on the windows. Has that changed?
No, ma'am. We don't have blinds on all of our windows.
Okay, so that is a safety issue that I was hoping that was addressed, that has not been addressed then.
No, ma'am. Not at this time.
Because the kids were saying, well, where do we, the only thing you can do is actually go right underneath the window to puddle down or whatever. So that is, I don't know how expensive that would be, but it would be good to have some blinds so that the people, if there's somebody, because it's an open, campus. The other question I had, one of the problems we had with students in the public schools is skipping class. And in the school that I taught, there was no follow-up on that. So if somebody went to first period and they were marked present, and then they weren't in the second period class, and they were marked absent, and then they maybe came to the third period class and was present again, is there any follow-up with the teacher in second period saying, were they there, did you just forget, or are they skipping class? That's one of those things that there was not any follow-up. So kids were skipping class because nobody would ever call them on it, nobody ever noticed it, and there was no follow-up later. Do you have a policy in place for that?
We do, and I don't think anyone here, as all of us were former high school students, that skipping is an ongoing issue that I think will forever exist. I have to give tremendous credit to our attendance secretary. She is fanatical about watching every aspect of our attendance. And yes, she will catch if a student was marked present one period and there's a gap and then present again. Probably before the next teacher has even finished submitting their attendance, she's calling into the room. I see Johnny shown
Okay.
up and things like that. And also our teachers, they're very good because they can see when they put attendance in where the gaps are. And so they're pretty good. Hey, I see Johnny was here last period. Anybody know where he's at? And so again, we do have practices in place for that. I think there's always room to keep growing. A big part of that is supervision and trying to know the places they might try to go when they skip it and make sure staff are there. But yes, ma'am, we're working to address that.
Yeah, the accountability on that is really key. Because if you don't have accountability, there's all kinds, and we're trying to get our disciplinary issues down, so that's a prime time for disciplinary problems, so, exactly. And then I only had, I wanted to hear what your cell phone plan is.
So it's really quite simple. We spent the month of July and the month of August inundating our students and our parents with the message, when that bell rings and class starts, your cell phone's away, period. There's no reason for it. If you need technology, we provide you with a Chromebook. We have outstanding teachers who give a lot of learning opportunities, and so our simple policy has been bell to bell, no cell. We've put it all over. You can use it during class changes, you can use it at lunch and breakfast, on the bus, but for that 50-minute time period that you're in class, that phone is to be away and you're to be focused. And so we had a team that did a significant amount of research, and it's kind of a 1, 2, 3. We're going to give you that gentle reminder, hey, this is the policy, put it away. We're going to ask you to put it in a safe location to secure for the period, and then we're going to ask your parents to come and get it. And so overall, that has honestly been one of the most effective things I think we've done in a couple years there, is putting that plan in place. And I think it's because of the communication our team did. We were very upfront in saying, this is how it's going to be, and we've stuck to it very hard from day one. And I think students kind of learned, if I keep doing this, my parents are going to have to keep my phone home.
So do the teachers have some kind of recourse for that? I mean, you're saying, okay, I saw you, Johnny, you have that thing. Is it 1, 2, and 3 in each week, each classroom, and what happens? Does it get reported to the office?
It does. There's a form. It gets reported.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's kind of a staggered process. Each teacher keeps track of it for the students in their class each day. And it grows. The form that we have tracks how many times. So if, Johnny has had it multiple times, the kind of interventions grow. So, and after a handful of times, if you've had this issue in multiple classes, we have a process. We meet with your parents. Johnny's not allowed to bring his phone back to the school. If he brings it, it's now a one and done thing. We're going to call you, say, we've got Johnny's phone, come and get it.
Have you had any backlash from the parents on that? Or how many have you had to report and confiscate?
I can't remember specific numbers off the top of my head. There were folks who loved that plan and folks who hated that plan. Overall, I'll be honest, it has been far less than we expected. I think we thought this would be a real battle, which is why we started communicating about it in July. And the first 2 weeks, we had a good handful. Honestly, after that, it really went down because we were just very straightforward with parents. We're not trying to be mean, not trying to be argumentative. We're asking for 50 minutes of focus. That's not just a right now policy, that's a lifelong skill. You got to focus on the job someday. And so it's just been good conversations with parents, and it has not been a huge number, to be honest
Good.
with you.
On chronic absenteeism, is it about the same across the board, or are we seeing it more in maybe upperclassmen that got into high school during COVID? Are we seeing improvement in like 10th and 9th graders? What's driving the improvement, and where are we seeing kind of the gaps, I guess?
We definitely see more absenteeism among upperclassmen, but I will say that's always been the case because of the fact that they can drive. A lot of them, especially once they become seniors, they have jobs. Some of them, truthfully, are caring for siblings or caring for parents. And so the things that we address with upperclassmen struggling with attendance is often quite different than it is with underclassmen. And so, those things, 9th and 10th grade absenteeism, it's a lot of the same stuff that Mrs. McNeely mentioned. It's, I just don't feel good. Well, a lot of folks don't feel good. You got to come to work. You got to come to school. And just having those conversations and helping folks kind of understand, and just being very open with folks, making sure they understand not only is it just an important thing to learn good attendance now and in the future, this is part of our accreditation. As a school, we need you to help us do better at this. And research has shown for as long as we've had school, you don't do as well if you're not there. That's just a fact. That's not anybody's opinion. And so trying to have those conversations and be understanding and supportive, but also very honest and to the point.
Good. You had a big jump in Goal 4 for college career and civic readiness from 22 to 23. You're expecting another big jump this year. Again, lofty goals. I love it. I think that's what we need to keep doing. So keep after it and just keep driving for that. On the 5th goal, with climate and culture, 625 or fewer disciplinary incidents. How many disciplinary incidents were there last year?
We base the goal off of kind of the past 5-year average, and I believe we were just over 700, I think.
Okay.
But I can't say that with certainty.
Okay, and how many incidents have we had this year?
Right now, I believe we're in the mid-300s or so, mid to upper 300s.
Okay.
But again, that's me doing the best to recall.
All right, so hopefully we're sort of there, we're teetering a little bit, but let's say it's a good goal to have and keep getting them down. Were a lot of those cell phone?
No, to be honest, they weren't.
Okay, they weren't, okay.
We
Okay.
expected that, and when we made this goal, we kind of worried if we were shooting ourselves in the foot thinking we'd have a lot of cell phone referrals. Some of them certainly are. But no, that actually has not been the predominant.
Yeah, and we heard, from principals and teachers and parents, and they were asking, said, we need cell phone policies, we think it's important, so we tried to take action and back you up on that. So I think it's a good start, and it seems to be working. If they're paying attention, if they're in class, they're going to do better in all their classes. So, and hopefully communicate more with each other. Hopefully they're taking time in lunch to not go, oh, thank goodness I can use my phone. Let me talk to my friend. And the friend could be Johnny. Johnny's taken a lot of heat here so far. Right? Everything Johnny's doing is bad, so we're going to give you a little credit. So anyway, thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, real quick, and forgive me if you said this already and I missed it, but how exactly do you define incident and disciplinary incident? What is an incident?
By the code of conduct. If they've done something that violates code of conduct, it warrants a referral.
Okay, so if there's an official referral that makes its way into the incident count. Right. Because I'm sure there's something that, the student does in the classroom, the teacher isn't, fond of, and they have a conversation. That's not necessarily an incident, right? It has to go through the formal referral program. Okay. And what are, off the top of your head, generally speaking, what are the incidents most often pertaining to?
I would say that the most frequent, and this has been the case for as long as I've been in education, is classroom disruption and defiance. I'm just not going to do my work. I'm going to do something to distract myself or others, or make disrespectful comments, just to be a disruption or distraction in the classroom. And again, that's been common for as long as I've been.
Okay, yeah, me too. I was one of those. Okay. And so, of the 700 or so on average, that, what roundabout percentage would be something more, difficult to handle, such as fighting or drugs or weapons, something like that? What kind of percentage are you seeing out of your 700?
Again, I don't want to give a percentage without being accurate, but I would say probably those more extreme things are a very small overall percentage when you take the total. If I had to guess, I would probably say 10% or less. The vast majority are classroom level, inappropriate behavior, things like that.
Because, that's the thing parents are worried about, right? They're seeing, when you watch TV, or especially if you're looking at Northern Virginia or, somewhere outside of our great community here, we're seeing, these fights and people bringing weapons to school and significant drug issues and things like that. So when we see 700 incidents, the first thing we think as parents are, what kind of incidents, right? And if it's disrupting class, we can all say, well, yeah, I also did that. So it's not something that we're going to stay awake at night over, right? So I think it's still good to get the number down, but
Absolutely.
it's also good to know that it's kids talking too much in class, right?
Questions, comments?
I'm just thinking that, we have kind of two different classes of things that we're talking about. One is the cell phone policy, And you've had really good results with that because there are consequences that you're able to enforce that really hit the kids where it hurts, right? They want to be on their phones, but I really don't want to lose it. And yet we're looking at 600 and 700 other types of incidents. Consequences for those things, it's the consequences that diminish the intent, right? I don't want to do this because of what's going to happen to me. And I'm just wondering what kind of consequences happen for those disruptive kids, since that's probably the majority of the things that are happening. And is that something that has changed over the years or can change? Any comments about that?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, it's really all guided by the code of conduct. There are things listed that we can use as disciplinary sanctions, but I'll be very honest, it's yes and. There are kids for whom the threat of a consequence or the fear of a consequence is all it takes. That was how I grew up. There are kids for whom, to be honest, that doesn't really make a difference.
Right.
It's not going to get the support that we might hope from every direction, and it may be a consequence they've received over their 11, 12 years of schooling so many times that it makes no difference anymore. And so that really, the essence of Goal 5 is to deal with disciplinary incidents, recognizing that we want you to feel so connected and so valued and so like you want to be a part of Liberty High School that you don't want to do those things. And so it's kind of setting that foundation first. We want you to be proud of this place. We want you to want to be here, and recognizing that we've got to create that, and then following up with consequences that are going to matter. If this is the consequence that works for 85, 90% of students, but I know it doesn't work for you, I got to find something that works for you. And so that's what we're working to do. Detention things during the day, after the day, community service, meeting with parents, trying to make them do restitution, conflict resolution with peers. It really, to be honest, is becoming something that we're having to get more and more creative and more thoughtful of, because there are students who consequences 100% make a difference every time, and we're going to do what we know works. There are others who we may try that and realize it's not making a big difference. We've got to continue with appropriate disciplinary sanctions. You have to be held accountable. But we've also got to recognize we've got to be creative and get this problem solved when it's something that makes sense for us to solve. There are things that cross the line, and certainly that's different.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Tucker, congratulations on the celebrations and the things that you have presented to us. It doesn't surprise me at all with you being in leadership over Liberty High School. So thank you for your hard work and your team. One thing that I am interested in is around the increased AP dual enrollment. I know for years that was a struggle or feedback from parents saying this is not available. So with you now offering that, have you seen a really a good transition of, now that it's there, more students saying, I'm going to go try this AP or dual enrollment since it's available to me?
Significantly.
Okay.
And I have to give credit to our staff there. Teaching those classes, you have to get additional degrees, endorsements, things like that. And we've had folks who have either come to us with that or who have said, I'll do that, and have put in the work for it. And so one of the things I'm most excited about is we now have a dual enrollment class in all 4 content areas: math, science, English, and social studies. And so in the past, if you really wanted that, you were probably looking at the early college program off campus or gov school. And we still have lots of kids doing those things. But now, if you're a kid who I really want to stay on campus with my friends, my clubs, my programs, you can do that and still get those dual enrollment classes. So yes, we have been really excited to see not only having more classes, but we're filling a lot of them up.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are just before 6 o'clock, so I don't think we need to get started on the, I don't think Randy can do the governor's budget in 3 minutes.
No, sir.
We have 2 minutes, so we'll wait and do public comment. I'm going to go ahead because there are no names listed for public comment, but is there anyone here who is interested in speaking tonight for public comment? Okay, so we have 1.
2.
2, okay, Ms. Honeycutt. All right. So let's just go ahead and move into public comment since we have two speakers. I'm sorry, I didn't see whose hand. So Ms. Honeycutt, if you want to come forward, go ahead and go. And I apologize. I see that I just skipped over student recognition, but let's go ahead and do public comment. No, let's go ahead. My apologies.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Honeycutt. I'm a teacher at Big Island Elementary. I have nothing prepared, but I came all this way. I don't live in Stanton River, so I thought I would at least say hello. To answer your question about, is it appropriate for me to answer? Well, anyway, we at Big Island never want to leave Big Island. We are a family. We support each other through the good, the bad. I am going through some personal things, and I know I have my tribe. And I think that's what encourages us to keep doing our best and to encourage our kids to keep doing our best. And with an amazing leader, we have no reason to want to leave our school. As far as PE, yeah, we would love to have PE as often as possible for our children, but budget doesn't allow, money doesn't go on trees, so it's just not possible for us right now. But we don't use recess. We don't take away recess as a punitive because even we need a break. And recess is that thing. So, yeah, I had nothing prepared, but I felt like I should just come and say hello. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate that. Ms. Bennett, we're going to pause public comment for a second. And Ms. Borak, if you want to move forward with student recognition.
We do not have any students present tonight for recognition. We do have 3 staff recognitions.
Perfect.
We can do those now, or we can do them
Go
now.
ahead and move forward with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, it's been our practice to introduce new administrators to you and to the community after they've been approved by the board and they've started in their new positions. So tonight it's my pleasure to introduce you to 3 individuals who have been appointed over the last several board meetings and are serving on our central support team, but you have not yet been introduced to them. So we'll begin with Mr. J. Aaron Mabry. Aaron, Aaron is behind me. So Mr. Mabry was born and raised in Lynchburg, Virginia. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in History from William and Mary in 2004, from the University of Lynchburg in 2010 with a Master's in Educational Leadership. Aaron began his career in education in the fall of 2004 at E.C. Glass High School, where he served as a social studies teacher, as well as an assistant principal and an associate principal. He returned to the classroom in 2022 at the Lynchburg Virtual Academy, where he taught all levels of high school social studies. He lives in Forest with his wife Sarah and their 2 sons, James and Robert, and we're certainly delighted to have him part of our team in the role of Supervisor of Humanities. Welcome, Mr. Aaron Mabry. Next, we have Mrs. Emily Burrell.
Just in the very back.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Emily was appointed by the board as our new Supervisor of Finance. Ms. Burrell graduated from Liberty University in 2021 with her bachelor's degree in accounting and international business. She is a licensed CPA and began her career in public accounting, where she specialized in audits of large publicly traded companies in the energy and mining sectors, as well as assisting private equity clients with their tax planning and filings. Emily currently lives in Bedford with her husband, enjoys gardening and traveling in her free time. We welcome Emily Burrell, our new Supervisor of Finance. And last but certainly not least is Mrs. Cindy Perdue. Cindy is our Supervisor of Elementary Reading. Mrs. Perdue is not new to our central support team, but she has assumed a position of greater responsibilities. Cindy has worked in Bedford County Public Schools for 23 years. She holds a postgraduate professional license with endorsements in elementary education, reading specialist, and school administration and supervision. During her tenure with Bedford County Public Schools, she has served as a classroom teacher, a reading specialist, an instructional coach, a kindergarten readiness facilitator, and she now serves as our supervisor of elementary reading. Welcome and congratulations on your promotion, Cindy Purdue. Mr. Hill, we have no other recognitions planned for this evening.
Thank you. Congratulations to the team. All right, so we will go back to public comment. Had a hand?
Good evening, board. My name is Mary Catherine, and I am I live in Forest, Virginia. I'm in District 5. Dora Purvis is my representative, and I am so excited to see you up here. In all truth and honesty, I look at every single one of you, and I'm so incredibly grateful that y'all are all there, up there. I feel like y'all are there for a reason and a purpose, and I know y'all are going to do a great job. Some of y'all are been doing this a long time, and I know you have great leadership up there to follow. And I have 6 kids, and I've been part of public school system, and I have really seen a lot of wonderful things happening in the past 2 years. I have seen some really awesome bills, patriotic bills. I've seen parental rights bills. I've seen teachers' rights bills. And I have to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I have my finger on a pulse of the community, not just my little area. I feel like I have understandings, and people have talked to me about different parts as well. And the general consensus that I've heard is they're very encouraged and very excited. A lot of the staff and the teachers and the principals, they're very happy with them as well. Something that I did want to mention that I've heard a lot is some of these newer representatives is to really take the time and go to each of the schools in your district. Quarterly, if possible. Go in there and talk to the teachers and talk to the principals and say, just like y'all already do, how can I serve you? That is something that I think will get a lot done. It'll increase morale throughout the entire county. I look at all the diversity that's on this board. You have business owners, and you have teachers, and you have administrators and doctors. Oh my gosh, we have wonderful. And each of y'all bring a unique point of view to this board, and I think that as y'all work together, it'll just continue to raise the excellency in Bedford County, and our students are going to really benefit from it. I love how we're all just working together for the benefit of our kids, and I just want to tell you, I see it. So I just want to thank you for all that you do, and I'm praying for you guys, and thank you again for all that you do. That's all I had to say. I'm just excited.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment time? Ms. Johnson, you'll have to keep me honest here. Do I need to go back and read the information that should have been read before public comment time?
Is there anybody else coming for public comment?
It is not.
I would say no, sir, but I would read it for the public hearing.
Perfect. Okay, next is the public hearing for 24-25 budget. Let's see here. This portion of the meeting is designated for public comments regarding the budget only. This budget public comment portion of tonight's agenda is limited to 40 minutes. Speakers are asked to state their name and voting district. The school board is here to listen to your comments, but will not engage or respond to speakers during this 40-minute period. Please remember that this is a public meeting and that we expect all speakers to refrain from any foul, profane, abusive, or hateful language during their comments or any time while in attendance during this meeting. If a speaker is not present when their name is called, we will proceed with the next name on the list. An individual who is not signed up to speak may not substitute for that time slot. Individuals will have 4 minutes to address the board. An alarm will sound when an individual has 30 seconds remaining, and a second alarm will sound when the allotted 4 minutes have expired. When this second alarm sounds, please discontinue speaking and allow the next person in line to come to the podium. Should you be unable to finish your comments, please send or give them to Ms. Johnson, and she will give them to board members. Please do not adjust the microphone at the podium as it has been positioned for optimum audio quality. There are no names for public comment for the budget. Is there anyone who is present tonight who would like to speak regarding the budget? Okay. No one coming forward. I will close that portion of tonight's comments. And that takes us back to staff reports. 2.02, Governor's Proposed Budget. Mr. Hagler.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And while Mr. Hagler is making his way over here to the table to join me, I'd like to make just a couple of remarks by way of introduction, particularly for our newest board members.
Okay.
Tonight is the first of several discussions that we're going to have together in the coming months about the development of the budget for next school year. As you might be aware, per the state's constitution, every other year, the governor proposes a two-year budget. For the school year that we are serving now, the current school year, we're in year 2 of a biennium budget that was proposed by then Governor Northam. And over the winter holidays that we just concluded, Governor Youngkin published his two-year biennium budget that will take us through 24-25 and 25-26. Also, by way of reminder, about 60% of all of our funding for our operating budget comes from the state. That leaves a little more than 30% of our operating budget from local dollars through the Board of Supervisors, and then the remaining balance from the federal government. In the coming weeks, you're going to hear that the House of Delegates and the Senate are going to publish their own two-year budgets. There will be differences, and any differences between those three budgets, from the governor to the House to the Senate, will be debated in the coming weeks and months during this legislative session, and will eventually lead to a compromise budget, we hope, by mid-March, since we're going to need to finalize and transmit our budget request over to the Board of Supervisors by late March. Later this evening, board members, it's on your agenda to determine if you're going to continue with standing committees, which I certainly believe you will and hope you do, and you'll be determining your membership for those standing committees, one of which is a Budget and Finance Committee. So Mr. Hagler and I will be meeting with that committee frequently in the coming weeks to review the information as we receive it from Richmond and to create a proposed budget together for the full board's consideration at your meeting on March the 14th. So back to tonight's agenda item. As we typically do each January, tonight Mr. Hagler will be sharing with you and the community who's viewing this meeting, either in person or online, a high-level overview of what the governor has proposed in his budget relative to public education. Mr. Hagler.
Yes. Good evening. Dr. Bergen and I attended a conference earlier this week where the governor spoke about his budget and his highlights, not only just for K-12, but overall. There were some tax changes included in that. So he spoke to a group of us in Richmond about what his goals were with that budget. We had several speakers that spoke in response to his proposed budget, and including a couple representatives and Senate members on the in the Senate and the House. I will say overall, each year, especially for the new board members, governor's proposed budget usually is not what we end up with. Sometimes there's vast differences. Sometimes there's very wide differences between the House and the Senate version. So there's a long road to go ahead of. I think you've already heard some comments that there's probably even pushback from the House and Senate to the governor's proposal already. So we're hoping we can get some versions out there where we can actually develop a budget. Last year they went way beyond their conference. Then they did a skinny budget, then an amended budget. So there's some projection that it may be a prolonged process again this year with the amount of things that they're dealing with. So we'll keep an eye on that. For the board members, as we go through the process, the Senate and the House will propose those. We'll get some sheets from the Department of Education, which will give us estimates on how we can budget our revenue from the state. Then they've got a compromise, then it goes to the governor. on that compromise, and he signs it, and he has veto powers on that also. So there's a lot of work in Richmond that needs to be done. I think they're pretty far apart at this point, is what we were hearing. Excuse me. From our standpoint, as we watched that process, there we're also gathering information on our budget, looking at federal grants, looking at health insurance, and a lot of other variables that we'll have to adjust with our budget. Typically, I've worked with the committee in the past, going into great detail on all those calculations. And so we can present something to the full board. Dr. Berg can present his superintendent's recommended budget with the committee's backing. And then we come together on March 21st in a work session for the full board to look over the whole budget and then to adopt the budget that evening. So I would encourage all of you, especially new board members, it can be quite daunting when you look at the budget and pull down the 4,000 different lines and go, what's primarily, what should I be looking at it? 85% of our budget is staffing. So that's where we focus a lot of our time on, and different funds. So I'd be happy to sit down, and I would encourage you, if you want to schedule some time with me, to come by and say, help me understand what we're going through and what I have to vote on in about 2 months on a very big budget. And I also encourage, once the committee's formed, for the other board members, for your ideas or your wants or wishes or changes the budget, to give that to those committee members so we can be working on that, providing as much information to the full board before we get to the March 31st. So we've kind of given you all that information. You can come and vote on something, and we've got a lot of that built in. So right now it's very early on the process. A lot of our estimates are still in the works and we're working on. And as I said, the state, I'm expecting pretty big differences. Typically, we will not have the conference final budget done from where they agree. So we typically take the worst case scenario from the center of the House. We'll take the one that provides us the least amount of money to be conservative, and we'll build off of that going forward and hope for better. Be happy to answer any questions on the governor's budget or even the process that we have going forward, if you have any questions tonight.
Any questions?
This was just, the governor's budget just covers operations, right? Not any of our other funds?
It does fund the textbook fund also, and some funds go into the nutrition account, but primarily the operating fund. There was the biggest things, some high-level things. They did fully fund the re-benchmarking. That's where they look at the past couple years, and then they factor that in and re-benchmark. So that took up a lot of the money that's coming into public education. What he proposed, the other big change is really the proposal is a 1% bonus in the 2024-25 year and a 2% increase in 25-26. So that's what's on the table from the state at this point. Those are the big items that impact us. Sales tax is going to, and I've been telling the board, our sales tax has been slipping this year. And so I've seen them reforecast that down for next year in the biennium. On top of that, there's also what they propose as a caboose bill to the current year. And so I'm happy, I'm looking through that right now. I'll present data on that in February. And I'm looking into that to make sure that they're going to readjust the sales tax down, and that should make up some of our money in basic aid. So I'll be briefing on that in February. So I'm looking at that bill also.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Hagler. Moving to 2.03 is the audit and comprehensive annual finance report.
Yes. So by state law, board members, an audit of the school division must be completed each year. And an audit for the 22-23 school year was completed and was submitted by Brown Edwards and Company on June 30, 2023. A copy of their findings is available to you and to the public. It is a link on the agenda online linked to this item. This audit is known as the CAFR, or the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Again, if you've not had a chance to review it, I would encourage you to go back and find the link within this agenda item. But for tonight, we'd like to present a high-level review of the findings of that CAFR. So, Mr. Hagler.
Yes. I'm happy to report that this year the audit was done basically on time. The county had lagged behind in the last couple of years, and it was presented a lot later. So This data has already been presented to the Board of Supervisors. We do a combined audit, so we are included in the audit with the county. We are a subunit of the county. And so happy to report that both the county and us received an unqualified audit, meaning there were no findings. And the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And that was the auditor's report. In the comments on in the agenda item, I point out where in that massive document you can look for our school data. Some of them, the first few pages are referencing our financial statements. Those are modified accrual basis statements. I always brief you on our cash basis, on our budget. The modified accrual takes a lot of things into consideration on that, and also some tables at the back, which I just take out of our annual school report. It shows membership and staffing levels, which most of the board I brief on also. They look at internal controls when they're doing the audit, and they will present any findings or recommendations, and there were no findings or recommendations on any of our internal controls for the school system this year, so I'm happy to report that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have on this. It's a big document. I think it's about 160 pages, but I've kind of guided you to where to look in that for the school's financials.
Questions for Mr. Hagler? Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to organizational items. Dr. Bergen?
Yes, sir. Per school board policy, policy BCA, on an annual basis at this meeting, the board's annual organizational meeting, the board is requested to appoint a designee for the superintendent in the event that I am unable to attend a meeting due to personal illness or some other good cause, as well as to appoint a clerk and a deputy clerk to serve the board. Tonight, I would ask for the board's approval of the following individuals to continue in their appointments from this current year. Sitting behind me here, Dr. Karen Woodford, our deputy superintendent, to serve as the superintendent's designee. Mr. Randy Hagler, who you just heard from, our chief financial officer, to serve as agent of the board. Mrs. Diana Johnson, the clerk of the board, who assists you so regularly to continue in that role. And Mrs. Melissa Sexton, who hopes that Mrs. Johnson is never ill and unable to attend, would serve as the deputy clerk of the school board in the absence of Mrs. Johnson. So that's Dr. Woodford as my designee, Mr. Hagler as agent of the board, Mrs. Johnson as the clerk of the board, and Mrs. Sexton as deputy clerk. These would all be continuing appointments. Mr. Hill.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nelms. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And that takes us to closed session. Do we have a motion for closed session?
I move.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that pursuant to Code of Virginia 2.2-3711A129, to, 1, discuss the assignment, appointment, performance, disciplining, and release of contract for specific school board employees, including the evaluation of the superintendent as provided in his contract of employment. 29, to discuss the discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders and offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body.
I have a motion. Ms. Purvis, did you want a second?
Second, yes.
And have a second. Ms. Purvis. Any discussion? All those in favor to go into closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in closed session. motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Nelms. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are out of closed session. Ms. Johnson, if you will certify a closed meeting.
Whereas the Bedford County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and where Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bedford County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Yes.
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 All right, moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Daniels. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, I heard Mr. Nelms first. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, next up is Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. As we referenced earlier when we were discussing the budget, Mr. Hagler and I attended a joint winter conference for VAS and VASBO earlier this week, where we had the opportunity to hear directly from the governor, as well as the Secretary of Education, Gadira, and State Superintendent of Instruction, Coons. The general and breakout session topics included the governor's proposed budget, as well as emerging legal issues, legislative proposals, changes with VRS, and statewide enrollment trends. And I'd like to talk with the board for just a little bit on this topic of statewide enrollment trends, since we were just discussing it in our last board meeting. As indicated on this slide, which was shared at the conference, and as noted, uses census data from 2010 and 2020. Enrollment in 69 of the 95 counties in Virginia, enrollment has declined over the past 20 years. The growth has occurred mainly in Northern Virginia and Richmond, as is indicated in the green in this color-coded map. You locate Bedford County on this map in the royal blue. The key would indicate that enrollment in Bedford County and the county surrounding us in royal blue has declined by upwards of 10%, while enrollment in many of the counties to our west, our north, and our east have declined by even more than that, by more than 10%, as indicated in the dark blue. As indicated on this slide, this trend of declining enrollment statewide is anticipated to continue until the year 2030. A leading cause of the decline in enrollment, as I've shared with the board and the community regularly, is the corresponding decline in birth rates, which have declined by 11% in Virginia since 2007. So that brings us to us. This is not new information. This is a screenshot that was shared with you at last month's board meeting by Mr. Blankenship. And as he shared at that time, our current enrollment of just over 9,000 students is projected to decline by about 100 students by the start of next school year, or about a 1% decline in enrollment. And based on current housing trends and birth rates, our decline in student enrollment is projected to continue over the next 4 years, losing approximately 75 to 100 students each year, with the incoming kindergarten class being smaller than the outgoing senior class. Now, speaking of current housing trends, the board has asked that I share with you any information as I receive it regarding development in the county. The Bedford County Planning Commission recently recommended the approval of rezoning 5 acres of land along US 221 and Forest. The rezoning is from currently general commercial to high-density multifamily residential. The developer making this proposal plans to build 54 townhomes on these 5 acres, and those townhomes are expected to generate upwards of 150 residents, which could include as many as 60 children, who would then be zoned into Thomas Jefferson Elementary, Forest Middle, and Jefferson Forest High School. Speaking of JF, let's move on to some of the accomplishments of our students and staff. Leading off, as pictured on this slide on the left, the JF Cavalier Theater finished state runner-up for VHSL Class 4, with Maddie Howard and Izzy Mistretta earning top actor honors. And as pictured on the right, congratulations to Britton Witt, who played center for the JF Cavalier football team on his selection to second team All-State. We have celebrations for students' shining efforts in the classroom as well. Bedford County 4th and 5th graders enrolled in the Gifted program recently held an expo at Montvale Elementary to present their projects for environmental problems and solutions. And as pictured on the right, we had 2 students, Mackenzie Barker and Addison Palmer, place 1st and 3rd, respectively, in an art contest sponsored by Preservation Virginia. We also have some accomplishments from earlier this week that are simply out of this world. As pictured here, students from Forest Middle School recently participated in an Earth to Space call with an astronaut who is currently aboard the International Space Station so they could learn more about living and working in space. Many thanks to Mrs. Cindy Watson for arranging this opportunity for her students, Dash Klein, Angela Liu, Joshua Menard, Addison Onafawoken, Cassidy Owar, and Avery Pyzik. This month's Bedford Best recipients, I am pleased to announce, are Miss Carrie Adams, who teaches at Boonesboro Elementary School, pictured on the left, and Miss Betty Bobbitt, who drives students in the Stanton River Zone. Thank you to both of these individuals and to all of our teachers and staff for your service to our students, and thank you to the Bedford Area Education Foundation for your financial support of our Bedford's Best program. If you'd like to nominate someone for recognition, please use the nomination link located on our website. I'd like to again welcome and congratulate our newest school board members. Just prior to the winter break, I attended the swearing-in ceremony in Judge Updike's chambers for our newly elected school board members. So on behalf of our entire central support team, we thank you for your leadership, and we're looking forward to working with you. And lastly, here's 3 things you need to know over the coming weeks. First, schools and offices will be closed next Monday, January 15, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Also, Monday, February 5th, school is closed to students for our teachers to have professional development. And thirdly, in conjunction with the Professional Development Day on February 5th, the National D-Day Memorial will be hosting a mini camp for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Parents, if you'd like for your child to participate, more information is available online at the D-Day website. Mr. Chair, that concludes my superintendent comments.
Thank you, sir. All right, next thing is the matters from the board, committee reports, and appointment of board member, committee members, and other advisories and boards. So first, are there any returning board members who have committee updates that you want to share or think need to be shared at this time? Okay, just wanted to validate. All right, so the next opportunity is for the appointment of board member, committee members, and other advisory/boards. And I want to remind the board of the committees and board advisories that are available. The first, you should have a copy in your stack there talking about it. But the RVGS, which is the Roanoke Valley Governor's School, and it gives you a definition of what is required and where it meets and how often. There's also the Central Virginia Governor's School and the STEM Academy. It's 2 different meetings, but tied together. There's a CTE advisory. We also have the Laurel Board Representative. Again, the definitions and the meeting times are all in your packet. We have a SEAC, Special Education Advisory Committee. Those are the actual advisory boards. And then the standing board committees, as we currently have, are the Intergovernmental Affairs, which is the IGA. Again, reviewing policy recommendations. Budget and Finance, it meets as needed. And let me go back to the IGA. It does meet monthly with the executive team. Budget and Finance meets as needed. There's also a Facility Committee, and it meets as needed. You will notice that we have added a special committee for PPEA, and I would also like to entertain that as far as having volunteers for that committee, and the PPEA will help manage any future projects that we have going forward. So what I would like to do is start for the advisory committees, which is on the first page, RVGS, CVGS, CTE Advisory, Laurel Board Representative, and SEAC. We need one member of the board to volunteer to serve on that advisory board. So I would open it up for the Roanoke Valley Gov School. Do we have anyone that is interested in serving on that board? And let me remind you, if there's no volunteers, I will be assigning. So do we have anybody that is interested in the Roanoke Valley Gov School?
I'm in Roanoke, so I'll take that one.
Okay. Mr. Nelms? The next one is for the Central Virginia Gov School and STEM Academy. Have anyone interested in that one? Ms. Purvis, I would really like you to consider that role for the Central Virginia Gov School and STEM Academy. CTE Advisory,
I'll stay on it.
you want to serve on both?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd like to get on that one too.
okay. Do we, or Ms. Johnson, are we aware, can we have two on that advisory board?
I am very unfamiliar with that advisory board.
Sure.
I think
can.
we,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty
Perfect.
sure.
Okay, so Dwayne Nelms and Matt Holbrook. Laurel Board Representative,
I would like to do that.
you would like to do that? Okay. And then we have the SEAC, Special Education Advisory Committee.
Been in trouble all day.
Johnny? Okay, you're good with that? Okay. All right, so the next would be the standing board committees. Again, 2 board members per committee. The first would be the Intergovernmental Affairs, IGA, which meets monthly.
I will stay on that.
Mr. Daniels?
I'd be willing to do that if someone else doesn't already want it.
Okay, you want to do that one?
Sure.
Okay.
Was it, Chris, were you on there? Yeah.
Budget and Finance?
I'll stay on it.
And I would like to join that one as well.
Okay. Would you have hard feelings since
No.
you've got 2 advisories?
I'm good.
I would like to serve on that one.
Yep.
And Ms. Johnson, we have clarified that the board chair can serve on committees, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Hill, would you mind repeating for me? It's yourself and who else was on budget? Was it Mr.
Daniel.
Daniels?
Mr. Daniels.
Thank you.
All right. Facility?
I'm staying.
Okay. Matt Holbrook?
Is the facility and the PPEA, is it going to be 2 separate
Gonna be a lot of
They kind of go.
overlap.
kinda go
I think
together.
they're going to overlap, but I would like to identify the two members who are going to be on the PPEA as a separate committee,
Okay,
but they will overlap.
okay. I'm okay with doing either one or both.
Okay, so you want to do facility and PPEA?
I think so. I mean,
Okay. And then the PPEA committee,
right. Which means I think
is that,
if Ms. Purvis would like to take the IGA, I think she might have mentioned wanting to do that.
no?
No? Okay.
No, I think we were talking about
A new
another
committee.
committee.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right,
I'm gonna be on the PPE.
okay, so you and Johnny can be both?
Both.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good deal.
It's pretty much the same
think it's the
thing.
same.
It's pretty much it.
Yep, all right, so Matt, Johnny. Are you good with that, Ms. Johnson? Did you capture that?
I have it all, yes, sir.
Okay,
I don't really have a preference, so
This
put me where you will.
it is sometimes.
okay,
Right there.
so let's talk about, all right, so we've covered the standing board committees as they are today. Is there any other discussion around any other committees that this board is looking to add?
I had made comments several board meetings back about a committee that would work with, staff on results, being results-driven and curriculum.
Okay.
And, maybe, in speaking with both of you two, I would ask that you would consider that. Now, what does that committee do? I mean, it would be a brand-new committee, so that would be up to whoever's on that committee to talk with central office staff and say, hey, this is what we would be looking at. But with this board and previous board have been very focused on results and asking questions. I think it's important to get those so that we can also talk to our community and say, yes, this is what we're seeing and this is what's going on. Just being able to have more people to be able to share in that and also share what we're doing, what we're looking to change so we can get even better results like we have at Big Island, so.
Is there any discussion or any interest in adding a committee for results and curriculum?
Would that be the official name of the committee?
It's up for, you can call it whatever.
What-
I like that idea. I mean, that's where my forte is, so.
Okay, so Mr.
And I would,
Daniels,
I would,
Dr. Hubach, are you okay with adding that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'm good with it.
That's what we're about.
okay. Johnny?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are in agreement to add the results and curriculum committee. Ms. Purvis, you mentioned that you're interested in serving on that. Dr. Hubach, are you,
I'm good with that.
okay?
Yes.
So we'll add you to that. What I would ask is that you both get with Dr. Bergen and set up that committee and, write what the results should be. What are we measuring? What is that committee about? Bring it back to the board so we can agree to the terms of that committee and agree that that's what, the board agrees that we want you focused on at the February board meeting. Are there any other committees that the board would want to add, or are we good with what we've got? Good. Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right. So, Ms. Johnson, do I need to do any type of motions on that? So it's just taken care of?
Good. The way, when the existing committees were formed, it was done by consensus, very similar to how you just walked through it this evening. I think that is totally sufficient.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so those are set. So then we will move to 9.02, comments and concerns from school board members. Mr. Knight, we will start on your end.
The only thing I would like to mention or talk about briefly is, forgive me, I don't remember the teacher's name, but when I brought up the idea of more PE time, she mentioned budget for PE. So in the coming finance meetings that you all have budget, I'd like to really understand is that really the holdup? Is that the reason that kids don't have PE the way they used to, or the way we used to? And if it is budget, what can we do to change that? If it's something else, what can we do to change that? I think physical education is so much more important than we really want to talk about at this point,
Right.
So
Okay. Any other comment?
that's it.
Mr. Holbert?
Just want to welcome the new board members to the board officially. So, you have a lot of extra money, a lot of extra time now. So,
Mr. Nelms?
No comments, just want to say welcome. Just look forward to working with y'all and getting some stuff accomplished.
Okay. Ms. Purvis?
I am very thankful to being here. I've enjoyed already just this first session. It's been interesting and eye-opening. I have a few requests. Is this the time I can do that? I'm still learning all of these Roberts rules and all that. The blue light toxicity that causes brain damage in our children comes from fluorescent lighting as well as computers, phones, video games, and the rest. And so I'd like to know if somebody in the administrative offices can do some research on that and how it damages it, and also some alternatives. I know that there is an app that can be put on your computer that can reduce the blue light effects on the children. And I'd like to also find out if we can possibly replace some of the fluorescent lighting with more full spectrum, or that which can be pretty expensive, but at least warmer spectrum fluorescent lighting. So is there somebody, Dr. Bergen, who could?
So first of all, let's make sure that the board, because we work as a board.
Okay.
So all 7 of us, or the majority, will need to say, yes, we would like to take time for the staff to work on that. But is there a consensus to ask the staff to go do that study or find information and bring back possibility of replacing, I think you said lights, and then also using maybe a possible app to reduce?
To reduce the blue light toxicity that comes through the computers, yes.
Sure.
yeah.
Matt? Consensus, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so Dr. Bergen,
Investigative.
we'll ask that you take a look at that and bring that back to the board. And are you okay with that being presented in a Wednesday memo, or do you want that to come back at a board meeting for what was found and what information is presented?
A memo is fine, and I'd like to, I also can get you the information about the app and see if that can be implemented.
Okay.
So
Any other comments?
just grateful to be here. Thank you.
Dr. Hubach?
Yes, I'm grateful to be here as well, and thank you all for being warm and welcoming, and look forward to working with you over the next several years.
Thank you. Mr. Daniels?
I mean, I'll echo more of the same. I'm excited to be back, and then I'm excited for the new board members, and there's a ton of work to do, and I'm very confident that we're going to be able to work with the team here to accomplish the goals that we're setting forth. That's the first thing. Both of the principals that spoke here tonight, I said it during my comments to them, but I'm really impressed with them trying to set really, quite honestly, tough to attain goals. And I think that is really important. I think, Mr. Hill, you have mentioned in the past, what would it take to show a 20% improvement? What do we need to do? I like to see that they're taking the initiative. I think that's a great way to drive results. I think it's a great way to get best practices out there. And it's going to take a total team effort. That's going to take administrators and teachers and staff and parents and students, everybody pulling in the right direction. And then we're going to get those results that we need. So again, just thankful to be here. Usually I'm pretty long-winded, but that's all I have tonight.
All right. Dr. Bergen, can you take me through the decision-making around A, closing schools, and B, starting schools late? Can you take me through the steps of how that decision is made, what the criteria would be for those decisions.
Relative to the last several days when we had an early dismissal and then a late arrival due to weather?
That being one example, I'm just trying to understand and also help our parents and community understand what is the process that we as Bedford County Public Schools goes through to make that decision.
So thank you for the question. They're team decisions, so primary players in that decision are the supervisor of transportation. That individual is speaking with VDOT about road conditions. So the most recent 2-hour delay that we made was because we had downed trees because of the soft ground and the winds. So we had some inaccessible roads that VDOT needed to address. And if we didn't delay, we would have buses and children out in the dark where they wouldn't necessarily see the debris in the roads. So the supervisor of transportation is talking to VDOT about road conditions. When we make a decision in the early morning, because we don't yet have enough information the night before, we always try to make a call the night before for convenience. But there's dispatch. So the sheriff's department has patrol out on the roads. And so the supervisor of transportation is talking with dispatch both the night of and in the wee morning hours at 4:30, about how are roads looking if we're concerned about ice on the roads, for instance. We also don't always agree in a region, but there's lots of regional conversations that occur. So I communicate with the other superintendents in the region because they have their own staff members who are out assessing roads, and our boundaries are very similar. And the supervisors of transportation and those other school divisions are talking to one another about weather forecasts and what they're experiencing in their areas. So you might notice sometimes the Region 2000 schools, if one is a 2-hour delay, they're all a 2-hour delay. Sometimes when one is closed, they're all closed, but not always. Because again, the weather might be more to the west, not affecting those to the east or vice versa. But to keep to your question, there's no one person who makes that decision. I speak at length with Josh Cornett, who's our Executive Director for School Administration, because he supervises transportation. And I speak with Mr. Hagler because he supervises facilities. Another thing we might be concerned about is power outage because of storm-related issues with wind or rain or what have you. So we gather as much information as is available to us about the conditions of our building, whether or not we have any concerns with power, concerns with weather forecasts, wind, road conditions, and then as a team, we make a decision about what we feel is in the best interest for the safety of our children, not only for our bus drivers, but also for our juniors and seniors who are out on the roads driving and are road safe for teenage drivers. Is that a thorough enough answer for your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see. Before we go to adjournment, I just want to remind those who are watching and those who are here, our next scheduled school board meeting is February 8th at 5 p.m., and that will be located at Liberty High School. So do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Holbrook,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelms. Any discussion? All those in favor for adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.